Hello, I'm Maria Hall Brown, and this is LA Currents. A new report says that temperatures worldwide are up by 1 degree. It's wetter in the east and drier in the west. Here locally, our snowpack is down by 40%, and we're into a second year of a severe drought. And so you know what that means for Los Angeles. Here to tell us how we can protect ourselves and make sure that everything goes well this fire season, I'm delighted to be joined by Fire Chief Ralph Terrazas. How nice to have you with us.
Well, thank you, Maria. Thanks for having me here. It's always a pleasure to come visit with you.
Thanks so much. All right. Well, as I just mentioned, there's so many dire warnings about the threat of fires here in SoCal. How bad is it really?
Well, Maria, I wish I had some good news. It's going to be bad. It's been bad the last few years, and it's due to three main reasons primarily. It's the drought, which you just mentioned. It's climate change. And the third reason is people are moving into the wildland-urban interface. So last year in the state of California, over 4 million acres were burned, which was double the previous record. So we're anticipating another busy year.
And from what I understand, fire season has always been X amount of time, and now it's longer.
That's correct. The height of our brush season is usually September to, I'd say, January. That's when the Santa Ana winds are most common. But it has become a year-round threat. Earlier in the year, the fuels are still moist, so it really doesn't get a chance to pick up steam, and the Santa Anas aren't pushing it. So we count on putting it out with our initial action engine companies, and usually we do. It's when the Santa Anas kick in and it's been dry and we haven't had rain for a long time, it rapidly spreads, then becomes a real challenge.
Okay, so with all of this unfortunate information that everyone has been able to gather, and this is incredibly pertinent to you as fire chief, what is LAFD doing in order to help prepare for the worst as you keep your fingers crossed for the best?
We do this every year. We've been doing it for most of my career. I have 37 years now in the fire department. And we have annual training, refresher training for our chiefs and our captains. We have annual fire company brush drills to keep refreshed on all the skills that you need. We also are always looking at new technology to get a head start on fighting these fires. We're very proud of our relationship with UC San Diego. We've initiated the Wi-Fi projection system, so we know within the first few minutes where that fire is going to travel to. In the last few years, we added another layer of technology. We call it the Sirens. It's a fixed wing real-time intelligence system. What that is, two fixed wings launch and they go above the helicopters, they fly the perimeter, and they send down images to our dispatch center. And I get those images on my phone as well. They confirm the perimeter of the fire, and that gets transmitted to the incident commanders on the ground. We serve that function for Southern California. We're the Southern California Wildfire Center here in Los Angeles. And then this year, we're going to have a greater number of cameras, the alert wildfire cameras. We have cameras throughout the Hollywood Hills and the Palisades and all other brush areas of the city.
Something that we were sort of talking about before we actually officially started this chat is fire science and learning the behavior of fire, because it has certain patterns, but it's also an enormous quagmire of unknown. So what have we learned in particular because of these technologies that you just mentioned about the behavior of fire? Are we getting better at understanding what it's going to do?
I think we are. The Wi-Fi utilizes real-time weather information, known fire corridors, and it creates a projection. UC San Diego is a supercomputer center on the West Coast. So they can run through all these algorithms and they shoot out a projection that gets sent to us at our dispatch center. Then literally, I can take a picture of the projection and then text it to all our field commanders. I also text it to the mayor and then whoever's council district that fire is in. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question, we have gotten better. Before, it was somebody's expertise who happened to be working that day, mm-hmm. who would calculate what are the probabilities of this path of the fire. Now we have a consistent computer model that does it every day.
Wow. Well, you can't protect people alone. You need actually to have those that are homeowners or just, citizenry itself be aware and prepared. So what are you hoping that homeowners will do prior to this fire season, both, in LA City proper and then just as these areas that you are talking about expand?
The people that live in the brush areas are our partners in fire protection from a brush fire.
Right.
First of all, they need to clear their brush, 200 feet minimum. That's the first thing we need our people to do. The second thing is to have an escape plan for your family. You never know where the brush fire is coming from, so have 2 ways to evacuate if you had to. And number 3, I would sign up for alerts through the LAFD.org software, the LAFD.org website.
Mm-hmm.
And you can sign up for Notify LA by texting 888-777.
And if in fact the worst happens and there is a fire, I imagine that the most important thing is you want people to do as they have been requested. Please evacuate when they're told. Please move your cars, because they can make it a lot worse if they don't, correct?
Absolutely. We also have a red flag no parking program. We implemented this after the Oakland Hills fire around the year 2000 because people were evacuating from their homes and clogging the streets.
Oh.
And some people died in their cars. It also prevented fire engines from going up into the hills because the roads were clogged. So on certain days, we'll also notify people through Notify LA that you can't park in those areas in the hillsides.
What are things that maybe people won't think about? And I'm just going to toss out some things, and you can say if I'm right or wrong. Extra garden hoses, attached around the house. Does that help you?
Well, if there's nothing else, it is a help. Our hoses are larger diameter and flow a lot more water, but typically when the system is being drained by multiple engines pulling water out of the hydrants, the pressure is very low.
I see.
So depending on pressure, if we have pressure and water, we'll use our lines. We can also draft from swimming pools or lakes or the ocean if we had to. So we have alternative ways of getting water. But I would encourage people, if you have a hose, to have it ready. Those are rubber, and of course they're going to burn, but sometimes you never know. It might be a tool that you may need.
And also in terms of fire protection, I was listening to some fire prevention things, just be incredibly cognizant and aware of things that you may be doing that cause a problem, like towing something with a chain and a spark, whatever. I mean, what are some of the things that start a fire that you feel as if someone didn't do on purpose, but they were not aware enough to understand?
There's the usual things. It's like unattended campfire, discarding cigarettes. A few years back, we had somebody who was clearing brush with a weed whacker, and they hit a rock, which created a spark, which started a brush fire.
That is so ironic.
Well,
and terrible, but still.
Well, there's been some provisions now. If you do that, you have to have an extinguisher nearby. You have to have the ability to dial 911, and there's some things that the city learned from that. So last year or the year before, somebody was driving in Northern California on a flat tire, and that created sparks. It got into the brush and created a large fire. So there's a lot of causes, but about well over 95% are human accidental starts.
I was going to ask you that, because last year being a record year in California fires, what the percentage were of human accidents, acts of nature, lightning, and then the most horrific component, literally arson, people doing it on purpose. So it's mostly just human error?
Human accidental starts. The Northern California fires were last year primarily lightning strikes and down power lines. When the wind gets to be a high speed, it blows the lines and they break and they fall into the brush where they arc. And then you have the start of a fire.
Okay. Also, the pandemic feels as if, especially in California, as if, it's abating somewhat and people are going back to life and perhaps even being overzealous in their opportunities to get out and enjoy the world. The New York Times mentioned that, this year in terms of fires or problems in the outside could be worse because of so many people going into campgrounds or whatever. And we've got a huge array of hiking areas in Los Angeles that people enjoy. perhaps people aren't thinking about fire danger when they're going hiking, but they should.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. In the Hollywood Hills especially, we have a lot of hikers, especially on weekends. And many times they get lost or they become injured or they're dehydrated, and which requires us to respond with a helicopter rescue. So my advice to any hikers in the hills is number one, have an escape route planned in your head in case there's a brush fire. And brush fires travel very fast, so you have to keep your head on a swivel. If you see active flame or smoke, be thinking about your escape route if necessary. If you have the opportunity to, carry a long sleeve shirt and pants in your backpack because you're going to need some thermal protection. And third, I would say, please try to have somebody that is first aid certified or even an emergency medical technician. You never know when you're going to have a medical need out in an isolated area.
I would think that that wouldn't even be something that would cross someone's mind, but in particular, in the heat, in the summer, going hiking, if you're not necessarily a seasoned hiker, that all of these things need to be considered before you just pop in the car with a bottle of water and decide to go up into the hills.
It's a little more complicated. Most of the time people can do it with no negative outcomes, but when you go off on your own, you get lost or you sprain an ankle or break a leg, and you can't climb down, you need to call for help.
Right.
And it helps if you know where you're at. If you don't know where you're at, we do have technologies in our dispatch center. We call, one of them is Rapid SOS. So through your cell phone, we can get your lat and long coordinates, and we'll feed that to our helicopters so they can fly directly to where you're at. That helps us, but you need to be equipped with your cell phone, and or if you have a landmark, if you can see a certain landmark, that helps us get to you faster.
It's not as if Los Angeles as a city isn't large enough, but we're talking about all of Southern California, and you talk about your cooperative effort with San Diego, and I know that you have a really strong relationship with CAL FIRE. So how do these crossover efforts against fire work, and is the LAFD called to go into areas outside of the LAFD legal area often, and how does it work amongst the different departments?
Well, quite well, to answer your question. We have a very close working relationship with our partner fire departments in the region, LA County Fire Department, Orange County Fire Authority, Ventura County Fire Department. We communicate on a regular basis, and then when we have brush fire weather predicted for the week, we communicate even more. We've actually accelerated our ability to ask for help from our neighboring fire departments by texting. I've texted Chief Osby, and he's texted me, and then we'll launch 5 strike teams within minutes. It's much faster than the older process, which we still utilize. The process has to catch up with a text. So we implemented that 3 or 4 years ago, and we continue to do that. And then we get requests from the state because the fires burn up and down the state of California. And we have to evaluate the risk here within the city of Los Angeles and decide what kind of resources and what numbers can we send to the northern part of California or down to San Diego.
Given the fact that if you have these cooperative efforts between different entities, and CAL FIRE is handling something in San Bernardino in the woods versus your guys who would handle structure fires, do you have to keep an educational expanse so that the LAFD firefighters have the ability to fight in the brush and in the forest as well as fighting inside a building?
We have all the necessary brush fire fighting equipment that all other fire departments have that do brush on a regular basis. We also have Type 3 fire engines that are 4x4 capable. Wow. They're actually from the state. We got them about 5 or 6 years ago. And when they make a request for our Type 3 engines, we can staff up 5 of those engines to create a strike team and send them out to wherever they're needed. Our people, our firefighters in our city are multi-dimensional.
Right.
88%.
That's what I was trying to get to, by the way.
Well, 88% of our runs are medical related, but 12% are every kind of fire you can think of: brush fire, high-rise fire, ship fire. You know, the options of types of incidents that we respond to are literally limitless. And sometimes you get in some situations you've never seen before, but after a while you gain that type of knowledge and figure it out.
You talked about the software and the computer technology that has enhanced, you know, your ability to understand what's going to happen with the fire. But you also have some pretty cool tech that has been introduced to LAFD that helps you fight the fires as well, correct?
Yes. The most recent one was the RS3, the Thermite RS3. It's a firefighting robot. It looks like a little bulldozer, and it will flow 2,500 gallons per minute. Has infrared cameras on it. I saw this tool being used at the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris a few years ago on the news. And I thought, wow, we really could use something like that. Throughout my career, when I've been the incident commander at large fires, I've had to pull our firefighters out because we were concerned about the walls collapsing.
Sure.
This robot allows us to go deep into the structure, flow 2,500 gallons of water per minute, which was much more than we're ever capable of doing by hand, and to get images sent out to the incident commander out in the street. It's safer for our firefighters. We get quicker extinguishment. We save water. It's a win-win. We're very lucky that our foundation purchased this robot for us, and we're the first city in our country and in the nation, North America, to have this firefighting robot. So we're very proud of it.
Have you been able to send it out?
We have. We've sent it out about 10 times, and we've learned some things. We're working with the manufacturer on how to make it better. Neighboring fire departments have requested it, and we've sent it out as well to help them. We've learned that it doesn't work underwater because it went into an underground parking structure and the water level was too high. We've learned that the plow has a plow in front of it, and it was V-shaped, and that wasn't helping us, so we got the manufacturer to make it a singular plow. We've learned that when we open it up full throttle, we have to get everybody outside of the building because the force of that water can kill people, and it also destroys the structural members of that occupancy.
Wow. Well, I mean, I'm sure that the manufacturer is unbelievably grateful to you for this information because, you know, to have that sort of insight is profound.
When we work with vendors, I like to, especially if it's a new endeavor, to have an understanding that we're going to develop this with them. I'd rather have us representing the fire industry tell them what we need versus them giving us something that's not an exact fit.
Right.
So it's been very, very successful on many projects.
And you also have your electric truck coming.
We're very excited about the Rosenbauer electric fire engine. It's being built in Austria. It's going to arrive in September of this year. We're going to assign it to Fire Station 82 in Hollywood. About a month ago, they had the prototype here in Hollywood at Fire Station 27. They were doing some documentary about it, and I was able to drive it to the Fire Station 82 where it's going to be assigned. And it's pretty unusual looking. It looks kind of like an RV. It's silent. It has 4x4 capability. It's a little bit smaller than our normal fire engine. When I backed into the fire station, I wanted to make sure it would fit, so I didn't want to crash the prototype fire engine, and it fit without a problem. Our firefighters are very excited at Fire Station 82. They were happy to kick the tires the day I brought it there. Had a lot of questions. It does have an onboard generator so that it'll never run out of power. It also generates power when they break. When it goes on, and when it gets on scene, it actually lowers automatically, so you're not jumping down from a great height. If you need to go off-roading, it actually elevates 18 inches, and it'll go into 4x4 mode. So we're very excited about that, and you'll hear a lot more in September.
And the whole silent part, not exactly what you expect for a fire truck.
It does have sirens,
okay,
but when you're just driving normally, it's silent, and it's interesting. It accelerates really fast. About a year ago, I was able to drive it around Dodger Stadium and the empty parking lots, and I thought it might be a little top-heavy, but the representative challenged me to try to flip it. and I couldn't. I was going fast and I was making hard turns, and it would tilt a little bit, but I didn't feel like it was out of control. And then when I braked, it was very rapid braking, which I really liked.
Are you getting it first, or have there been other fire departments across the country that have gotten this already?
Well, much like the robot, we'll be the first in North America, the fourth city in the world.
Wow, that's incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you.
As you mentioned, the goodly portion of your calls are human-related and not necessarily fire-related. And I know that there has been a lot of talk recently about the type of calls that maybe law enforcement should go out on versus medical professionals, but this is a perfect place for the LA Fire Department to fit in because of the fact that you do deal with a wide array of medical calls. So you are going to have a new alternative response program, are you not?
Yes, we are. We're very excited about this. We've been working on it. It's probably close to 2 years. It predates COVID and the George Floyd incident. I learned of a program that LA County Department of Mental Health was going to initiate. And what it was they were getting 10 of these therapeutic vans. Each van would have 3 mental health workers on it. And when I heard that, I thought, well, if you give me 5 of those, we'll put them in 5 of our stations, and we'll connect them to our computer-aided dispatch computer. So when a 911 call comes in, rather than sending a fire engine or a paramedic ambulance with firefighters who have very minimal mental health experience, why not send these professionals? So it looks like we're going to be implementing this program in June, next month, and we'll be starting at Fire Station 4 here in downtown LA.
How will you determine the appropriate nature of sending that team out versus an emergency team with a big fire truck and paramedics, et cetera?
Well, the key is going to be in the questioning when the 911 call comes in.
Right.
If we can eliminate any possible medical related condition, we can eliminate the need to send our paramedics and EMTs. We also have to eliminate the potential that they're violent. If it's a non-violent, non-medically related situation, we can send these therapeutic vans.
Okay, can you give me kind of a perfect scenario? I mean, who is this person, or what is the situation in which this appropriate team should go out on this particular call?
Sure, and we respond to 20,000 mental health calls per year. And LAPD is a similar number. When you add the two, we're like 40 to 50,000 per year. But the scenario I can see where this would be a good fit would be somebody who may have a mental health history and the family is aware of it, and maybe the meds are not just right, and they know the medical history. So when they dial 911, we can ask the caller, okay, do they have any medical conditions that you're aware of? No.
Right.
Are they breathing normally? Yes. Are they violent? No. We can send them the therapeutic van.
And can that van then transport them to a hospital?
They can do that if necessary, or transport to a mental health clinic, which is actually better for the patient because you have that type of specialized care ready there, and your turnaround time is much quicker for the ambulance. But if they needed to, they have a TV screen that allows them to connect to a psychiatrist, and they call it telehealth. It's very much like our telemedicine program here within the LAFD.
Because I understand that one of the biggest problems in a scenario like that is making it worse by creating the havoc and the chaos that comes along with a big, huge medical team. So does this van also come with sirens and lights and all this kind of thing?
Good question, Maria. No, it doesn't. It's a non-emergency response, and you're getting 3 people. So you're right. When you get on scene and you hear people approaching with a siren, it kind of escalates the tension before you even get there. So this van is developed, and we're developing procedures so we won't elevate tension. We're there to calm down people, to address their problem. It may be as simple as writing up a prescription, or maybe it's a transport to a mental health clinic. But we have to do things differently to achieve better results.
Well, that sounds like you are unbelievably innovative at the LAFD, so congratulations. But in regards to what you have been able to do over the last year, I know that you were very involved in COVID testing and COVID vaccines. So where are you right now with all of that?
Let me first say I'm extremely proud of the men and women of the Los Angeles City Fire Department. There's no pandemic manual in the LAFD library. There will be after this is over.
Well, let's hope you don't have to use it.
I hope that too, but I had a discussion just a few days ago with staff. So we got to codify what we've learned here, because we've learned a tremendous amount. Where we're at, we've tested over 4 million people since last March. We vaccinated over 1.2 million since last December when the vaccines became available. We support a daily effort of 10 fixed sites and 8 mobile teams throughout the city in partnership with CORE, that's Civilians Organized Relief Effort, which is led by Sean Penn. They have about 700 or 800 people every day, and we have about 120 every day. And what we do is supervise the effort and support logistically all of the vaccination sites. And that's a huge machine. And it's very similar to what we do when we set up a brush fire base camp.
Okay.
Because you're going to need the same kind of things.
Right.
You need generators, power, tents, porta potties, things like that.
Communication, all that stuff.
A lot of traffic cones. We learned you need a lot of traffic cones. Just look at Dodger Stadium.
Right.
So we're very proud of the results and our partnerships. And I'll tell you that Mayor Garcetti deserves a lot of credit. He did not hesitate in March when he turned to me and said, can we vaccinate and test? Back in March, we couldn't even vaccinate. It was testing only. And we said, yeah, our mission is to protect lives and property, and COVID is definitely a threat to lives.
Right. All right. Well, since you mentioned earlier that you've been part of this world for many decades, what are the things that you feel have really changed within the LAFD that are making the most difference?
Well, in my 7 years as the fire chief, I'd have to say technology.
Yeah.
Technology, without a doubt. The Wi-Fi system, Pulse Point. Pulse Point is a program, an app on your phone that you can tell if there's an incident nearby. There's the drones. There's telemedicine. There's so many different things. The electric fire engine, the firefighting robot,
right.
Our new helicopters, all of that. But the core of what we do when there's an actual fire is extreme manual labor and
right.
effort, and you have to be smart about it. So we've been teaching our new firefighters, we've been hiring consistently for the last 7 years, is to gain situational awareness and decide what you're trying to protect and decide whether or not we should risk our lives, go into offensive mode or go into the defensive mode if you're not saving lives and it's an empty piece of property.
Okay, so we're running out of time, but I really want to ask you, there's been a lot of fires in homeless encampments. How are you addressing that?
Homeless encampment fires are a challenge for us. They have accelerated significantly. They're caused by 3 main factors. Number 1, heating, cooking, or spite, because one person has a dispute with another person. Just yesterday, we launched a pilot program in Venice, which puts into play our fast response vehicle that has 300-gallon water capacity and staffed by 2 firefighter paramedics. Their mission is to be educators on fire safety, and if they see active fire, to put it out.
Wow. All right. Well, this is beyond fascinating. I wish you a world of luck, and that that all of the statistics are terribly wrong when it comes to this particular fire season, but I'm sure people feel very safe and comfortable that you guys have it handled. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Maria. I appreciate the opportunity to come visit with you every time. And your questions are challenging, and I get to share what we're doing in those areas, and I'm so proud of our fire department.
Wow, we're proud of you too. All
Thank
right,
you.
thanks so much.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap on this LA Currents.